Listen as Ginger tells the creation story.
This story, boys and girls, is about the creation of our world. The first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, tells us about the beginning of this earth. The first words in the Bible say, "In the beginning, God created." Boys and girls, the Bible tells us the true background of everything. It tells us about the first animals, the first birds and the trees, and the first people. But before God created all those things, He first made the world itself. Let's see if we can imagine what the Bible means when it says the earth was without form. Close your eyes. What do you see? Nothing, right? That is how it was when God started to make our world. The first act of creation was when He said, "Let there be light." As quick as you can snap your finger, light appeared, and God saw that the light was good. So He divided the light from the darkness, and He named the light day, and the darkness night. The darkness passed, light came. It was the first day of creation. Then God spoke again. He said, "Let there be a firmament." Now the firmament, boys and girls, was air, and God called the air sky. The Bible says that when this was done, it began to get dark, and the second day of creation ended. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered together so dry land will appear." God named the dry land earth, and the water that was gathered together He called seas. The earth now had beautiful rolling hills and valleys, and God covered them with beautiful cool green grass, plants, and bushes. He shaped the waters into many beautiful forms: babbling brooks, crystal lakes, big flowing rivers, and great expanses of ocean water. God formed them all. As He created the trees, He made them so some have grain for seeds, and others make fruit with seeds inside, like the apple tree. When we look inside an apple, what do we find? Seeds, right? When one of these seeds is planted in the ground, the warm, moist soil causes it to begin growing. Roots, then leaves. It grows bigger and bigger until finally it is a tree bearing apples. Besides the many different kinds of trees and bushes and grass, God also made the flowers and vegetables. In each of these, He created seeds so everything could produce more of its own kind. All of this He did on the third day of creation. God knew that what He had created on the third day would need energy to grow. So on the fourth day, He made a huge power plant to give off heat and light. Yes, God created the sun. When you go outside to play, the sun keeps you warm. It makes you feel good, and it gives your body things it needs to grow and be healthy. It's the same way with the grass and trees, flowers and vegetables. In the evening, when the sun begins to disappear, we know the day will soon be over and darkness will come. Then the moon lights the evening sky. There is hardly anything more beautiful than a big, full moon. So God made two large lights. He made the brighter light, the sun, to rule the day. He made the smaller light, the moon, to rule the night. He also made the stars. God put all these things in the sky to shine on the earth. He put them there to separate the light from the darkness. And He placed the earth in orbit to move around the sun. This gives us our seasons: the cool spring, warm summer, balmy fall, and cold winter. The lights God placed in the heavens also make the days and years. At the end of the fourth day, God saw that all these things were good. Early on the fifth day, songs of birds began to fill the air. Robins and hummingbirds, blue jays and canaries. Exotic birds like this macaw and cockatoo. Birds, boys and girls, were the first things to sing and fill the earth with joy. God must have been pleased with all these creatures. On the same day that He created the birds, He said, "Let the water be filled with living things." So God created the large sea animals and the tiniest of fish. He made the sharks, whales, stingrays, shrimp, snails, and all kinds of fish. God blessed them and said, "Have many young ones, fill the water of the seas, and let the birds grow in number." This was the fifth day. The sixth day of creation, boys and girls, is my favorite. On this day, God said, "Let the earth be filled with animals. Let there be tame animals and small animals and wild animals." And it happened. He made the elephant and the red fox, the lion and giraffe, the monkeys to swing from trees, and the raccoons to play in the water. As the birds flew overhead, they must have noticed these new creatures that were roaming around. And as the big, beautiful birds swam on the water, they saw the animals walking along the shore. Each animal was a different shape, color, and size. Each made a different noise. Nothing like the birds. These were animal noises. The elephants bellowed. The lions roared. The dogs barked. And the monkeys screeched. How do you feel when you have something brand new? You are happy and proud of what you have, aren't you? That is the way God must have felt about His new world. But He was not through yet. God needed someone to enjoy all these beautiful things with Him. The Bible tells us that the next thing He did was to make man in His own image. From the dust, He formed a human being and breathed into him the breath of life. God called this man Adam. God showed Adam all the things in his brand new world. As Adam saw all the different animals and birds, he must have felt close to these wonderful living things. The Bible says Adam gave a name to every kind of animal and bird. Whatever he called each living thing, that became its name. But the tigers could not talk to him. None of the animals could. God knew this, and He wanted Adam to have a companion to share his happiness. So God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. While Adam slept, God took a rib from Adam's side and formed another human being. When Adam awakened, he saw what God had done. He had made him a dear companion, and Adam said that she shall be called woman. Creation now seemed complete. God must have smiled as He looked at His new world. The earth was a perfect place. All the waters were crystal clear. The sky was a clear blue. As the sun went out of sight on the sixth day, the seventh day began. God was pleased with all His work, so He rested. The Bible says He blessed this day and made it holy. He set it apart as a memorial of all the things He had created. A weekly day of rest was God's special gift to man. God's law says, 6 days are for work, the seventh is for rest. On the Lord's day, We lay aside the things that we do the other days of the week. We go to church to honor and worship God. We put Him first and remember that He is the one who created all things. Now, let's think back to the different days of creation. The first day, He made the light. The second day was the air and sky. On the third day, He divided the water and the land and made the trees and flowers. The fourth day was the sun, moon, and stars. On the fifth day, God made the birds and fish. And on the sixth day, He created the animals and man. In 6 days, God made the earth. On the seventh day, He rested. When we see something that makes us feel real good, maybe a little kitten rolling in the grass or some flowers growing in the field, we need to remember that all of these things go back to the time of creation. You know, boys and girls, it is important that we know how and when our world began. The Bible is the only true account. The many things we see and enjoy did not just accidentally come about or evolve from something else. God created everything.
Listen as Ginger tells about Adam and Eve.
One of the greatest love stories goes back to the very beginning of time. It is the love between the very first couple, Adam and Eve. I am sure Adam must have been pleased to have a beautiful companion, and surely Eve admired her strong husband. The Bible tells us that God created them in His image. He made them like Himself and wanted them to share with Him the joy of His new world. In all of His creation, there was one very special place that God set aside to be the home of Adam and Eve. God called it the Garden of Eden. Inside the garden, there were trees with every kind of fruit you can imagine. The branches were heavy with luscious fruits. These beautiful trees provided shade and a quiet peacefulness. In the middle of the garden, there were two special trees. One was the tree of life, and the other was called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God had told Adam and Eve that they could eat fruit from every tree except one. They were not to eat fruit from the tree of knowledge, not even to touch it. Adam and Eve understood God's law. The tree of knowledge was a test. It tested their obedience, their faith, and their love to God. Adam and Eve were very happy in their garden home. They kept themselves busy training the vines to grow the way they wanted them. Adam had such fun with the animals. There was always something new to learn about all the beautiful things God had made. One day, when Adam was doing something Eve was not too interested in, she wandered from his side. She walked among the flowers. She made her way through the garden until she found herself right in front of the tree of knowledge. Beautiful fruit hung on the branches. While she was admiring the tree, she heard a voice. She looked up. Where was the voice coming from? Instead of quickly running away, she moved closer to the tree. Beneath the fruit and the leaves, she saw a serpent. Now God had created the serpents as beautiful creatures with wings, but there was no way they could talk. Do you know who was talking through the serpent? That's right. It was Satan. He was there to tempt Eve to do wrong. The serpent said to Eve, "Has God said that you should not eat of every tree in the garden?" Eve told the serpent, "We may eat of all the trees except this one. God has said that we will die if we eat fruit from it, or even touch it." The serpent began to laugh. "Die? Do you know why you are to stay away from this tree? This fruit will make you like God. He just does not want you to become a god." Eve began to think how wonderful it would be to become like God. But she still remembered that she and Adam were not to touch the fruit on that tree. Eve could not help herself. She pulled one of the fruits from the tree. Then the voice from the serpent said, "Look, you are holding it. You are not dying. If you eat it, nothing will happen. Taste it. Go ahead. One bite will not hurt you." Before she realized what she was doing, Eve took a bite from the fruit. It was delicious. Then she thought, "The serpent must be right." She hurried to find Adam. She was excited. "Adam," she said, "look, there was a serpent in the tree of knowledge. It spoke to me and told me the fruit is really good to eat. See, I'm touching it. I've even taken a bite, and I'm not dying. It's delicious. Here, taste it." Adam's face grew sad. He stared at Eve's outstretched hand. How disappointed he was. Why had he let her leave his side? Adam knew Eve had disobeyed God. She would face punishment. He could not bear to be separated from her. He took the fruit from her hand and began to eat it. Now they had both disobeyed God. A terrible feeling came over them. Suddenly, they felt naked. They had always been clothed in a robe of righteousness. Now it was gone. They ran to hide. They began to put leaves together to cover themselves. In the cool of the evening, Adam and Eve heard God calling them. They were frightened. They tried to hide themselves in the trees of the garden. But Adam heard God call again. "Adam, where are you?" Adam told God that he had heard his voice, but he was afraid because he was naked. God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you not to eat?" Adam told God, "The woman you gave me brought me the fruit, and I ate it." Then God looked at Eve. "What have you done?" Eve blamed it on the serpent. So God placed a curse on serpents. No longer would they have beautiful wings and float through the air. They would crawl in the dust of the earth forever. Then God took skins and clothed Adam and Eve. He told them that they would have to leave their beautiful garden home. It would no longer be easy to grow food. They would have to work hard. The ground would be cursed with thorns and thistles. How terrible Adam and Eve must have felt as they left the Garden of Eden. They had disobeyed God, and this was their punishment. God placed an angel to guard the tree of life so that Adam and Eve could not eat from it and live forever. From the time they left their garden home, Adam and Eve had to work hard to grow food to eat. I am sure they must have thought back many times of how easy and beautiful their life had once been. You know, boys and girls, this story started with such happiness and ended so sad. It was the beginning of sin in this world. But God sent His Son, Jesus, to this earth. Jesus is our example. While He was here, He fulfilled the plan of salvation. He died on the cross for the sins of us all. Because Jesus died for us, we can be saved. We need to ask Jesus every day to help us overcome Satan's temptations.